We have a trader who bought puts on SVB before it crashed and made a huge profit. Someone is up by more than 700% due to a few lucky coin flips, and we have a trader who turned 3.6k into 20.7k overnight. And we're starting off with an insane gain by celebration number 8076. He bought SVB puts that got exercised, and now he's wondering which buttons he has to push to exit the position. From the screenshot we can see that he's shorting 600 shares of SVB Financial Group, and he's up by 99% or 50,895.43, and we'll get into that in a minute, but first a little bit of a backstory. He works in tech, and when his phone was absolutely blowing up with people saying to get your money out, he did or found some poor man's analysis and realized that they might not be able to survive with 8 and 9 figure accounts suddenly pulling their cash. All of his friends with 8 to 9 figures were also shouting to pull out. He has some investment accounts that are normally escrowed so that he receives distributions in an SVB account, so he doesn't know where those were living and bought a bunch of SVB puts as a hedge. He did them in his dumb Chase account because he hadn't been trading and that was the only place he had any cash. He eventually got Chase to exercise them for him, but he has no idea what he's doing and how to get out. And to sort out some of the confusion, he bought puts with a striking price at $125, then the stock went to zero, and it was impossible to close the puts because the stock was no longer trading. It was halted and never resumed when the FDIC took over the bank due to insolvency. So he had to choose between letting the put options expire on March the 24th and exercise. Given that the FDIC had already taken the bank over, he chose to exercise and entered a naked short position in a broker-to-broker transaction. So now he's shorting 600 shares. Otherwise he invested 16k and it's currently worth 75k. And the problem is that Chase won't let him cover the short, as it looks like the system can't find the ticker. The next day he took an hour on the phone with Chase complex trading team. They said their system doesn't allow for trading pink sheet stocks at all, so they aren't prepared well for scenarios where you own shares or are shorting shares of a stock that has been delisted, and there was no way for him to put the trade through online. Eventually though he was able to cover. He put in a market order and went through at 41 cents a share. It doesn't cost him anything to do so over the phone if you're a JP Morgan private client. So in conclusion, he bought 6 SIVB puts with a striking price at $125 and an expiration date on March the 17th. When the stock was delisted, he did a cashless exercise and ended up shorting 600 shares of SVB at $125 a share, which he covered at 41 cents a share. So he turned 16.7k to 75k, or made 58.3k of profit. And then he decided it was time to buy First Republic Bank calls. Next we have another huge gain by Silverwind18, who is with a few lucky coin flips up by more than 700% or $28,096.62 in the past month. And since his account is worth around 32k, he must have started with just 4k, and I think it's safe to say that he had a slow start. Most of his gains were from short-term plays, and his latest trade is 600 puts on TQQQ with a striking price at $25 and expiration date on April the 6th. He thought the economy would eventually get better since the world's largest exporter has lifted the COVID restriction at the beginning of this year, so the general strategy was to buy calls and occasionally short if things are overbought. The market doesn't always react to the news immediately, so he just gave it time and did options that were about 2 weeks long. And we can see that he's only trading TQQ, and he started on March the 14th. And he recently bought puts because he thinks the Fed will not let bank failure happen, so they'll print, which will lead to a temporary boost to tech stocks. But looking at the weekly and monthly RSI, it's a bit high right now, so he decided to buy puts. Next up we have a huge gain by Nido's Gain69, who's up by more than 400% or $16,903.33 in the past week, because on March the 28th he bought 90 SPY call options with a striking price at $398 and an expiration date on March the 29th. He bought them just a couple of minutes before the market closed at 40 cents a contract and sold them in the morning of the next day at $2.30. So he pretty much turned 3.6k into 20.7k overnight with 1 day till expiry options. And he used the best regard strat there is: luck. Next up we have a huge loss by Curious Dude 925, who shorted the Nasdaq. As you can see, he's down by around 22.7k because he was trying to inverse Jim Cramer on shorting the Nasdaq will send you to the grave tweet that he sent a couple weeks ago. Unfortunately this time he was right, so he's kinda stuck in a short position on these futures contracts and is not sure what to do. Anyway, next up we have a huge gain by Tasmani Devil. RDLX is on fire as I predicted months ago. He's up by almost 500% to $82,625.09 because he bought around 20,000 shares of Ardilux at an average cost of 82 cents, and right now the stock is trading at $4.79. He's a registered nurse and loves science, so this company stuck out like a sore thumb because the data from the studies they did was statistically significant and the drug had a good safety profile. It was also for a sector that had only one other drug being used, which was phosphate binder MF or the hyperphosphatemia indication. The other thing that strengthened his resolve was the approval and launch of the drug for another indication, IBS type C, with 500 million of expected revenue at peak. So technically the company can become profitable off of that lower indication. The company was also planning to go to war with the FDA at an AdCom to get the hyperphosphatemia indication denial overturned. After they successfully did that, he was like, I'm staying put, and now he's up 500%. He also thinks there will be a Q1 earnings beat and NDA filing in a few weeks, which should in his opinion make the stock rise to $7 to $10 by the end of the year. Ideally, he would like to keep all of his shares until the new NDA gets approved, which will be in the fall, but at the same time he's well aware of the treacherousness of biotech stocks. That's why he has stop losses. There is always some unforeseen circumstance. However, reading the scientific data helps him to make informed decisions about what will make the company money and the timeline on it. Knowing the cash on hand and the cash burns helps him to mitigate risk. It's impossible to account for every factor, but he trusts his research. For everything else, he trusts in stop losses. He even gave advice on how to find good stock picks. Google whatever sector you like and research for new and upcoming companies with actual products. Pay attention to the financials and the market that the company services, and from there you can calculate potential revenue. Compare that to what price the stock is selling for and determine if it's overpriced or not, and then you make a decision. And last but not least, we have a huge loss by SparrowHelp562, who had a great year so far. Year to date he's down by 63% or €41,624.56 and is left with around 25k. And needless to say, his chart looks rather sad. He's down by so much because he realized a lot of losses on puts on Tesla and Nvidia and so on. Among them were Tesla puts with striking prices at $80, $100, $120, $25 and $28 and expiration dates on January 20th, 27th and on April 21st. And if you want to see how this trader made $280,000 in just 4 hours, click on the video that just popped up. And if that is not enough, smash the subscribe button, as it'll help me out a lot in reaching my goal of 600 subscribers. If you have any questions or recommendations, leave them in the comments down below, and thanks for watching.